I never knew silence could be so heavy, so full of breath and memory that even the wind felt afraid to move. The snow that day seemed to mourn with me, whispering beneath my steps as I crossed the white field toward the cabin on the hill. My village had turned its face from me. They saw only my brother's shadow on me, his guilt, not his innocence, and I carried that burden like a scar across my spirit. When I reached the cabin, my hands were trembling from more than cold. I knocked once. The sound echoed in the stillness, then the door opened. He stood there, Hoda. A tall man, quiet as the pines behind him, eyes the color of winter rivers. For a long breath we only stared. Then I said softly, I need shelter, for a few days. He didn't ask questions. He only stepped aside. Inside, the air smelled of burning cedar. There was warmth, not comfort, just warmth enough to breathe again. He sat by the fire, carving a small wooden horse. The blade moved in rhythm, whispering against the grain. I sat near the door, uncertain if I belonged even to the air in that room. Hours passed before I found the courage to speak. I need a favor, I said finally, my voice low. He looked up. What kind? Pretend to be my husband. Just for a week. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, in wonder. Why? I swallowed hard. In the nearby town, they don't trust a woman alone. They look at her, whisper things. I'm tired of whispers, Mr. Hoda. I just need a name, a shadow to walk beside me. He watched me for what felt like forever. Then he nodded once. If a lie can save a soul, he said, maybe it's not a lie at all. The next morning we went to town together. The snow was soft and the sky hung low. People turned to look at us, at him, the silent cowboy, and me, the girl who was suddenly someone's wife. The grocer smiled and said, Good day, sir and ma'am. That word, ma'am, brushed against my heart like a warm wind. On the way back I almost slipped on the icy trail. His hand reached for mine, steady and firm. For a moment I forgot the cold. That touch wasn't bold, it was careful, as if he were afraid I might break. But something in me began to melt. Days passed in quiet rhythm. I cooked. He chopped wood. Sometimes we didn't speak for hours, but I began to hear his silence, the soft kind that listens rather than hides. One night he said, I used to talk more. But life took that from me. I whispered, sometimes words only get in the way. Sometimes it's enough that someone stays. He smiled faintly, a tired, beautiful smile that seemed to belong to a man who'd once known hope. On the 5th day I found him carving again. This time it was a small bird, delicate and unfinished. For me? I asked. He didn't look up. Didn't plan to. My hands just started moving. Maybe your heart gave them the order, I said. He paused, knife in midair, then continued carving without another word. But I saw his breath catch just once. By the 6th day, gossip returned with the thaw. Some men in town muttered, that cowboy's wife looks too quiet to be real. I lowered my eyes, but Hoda didn't speak. Later that night I asked, why didn't you say anything? He answered, if I fought every tongue that lied, I'd have no peace left for truth. It was then I realized, his silence wasn't weakness. It was survival. That night I woke to the soft crackle of fire. Hoda sat near the hearth, staring at the flames. You don't sleep? I asked. He shook his head. Sleep brings her back. Her? He nodded slowly. A woman I once loved. The snow took her on a night like this. I didn't speak. I just went to him quietly and placed my hand on his shoulder. His body stilled. We stayed like that. No words, no promises, just the understanding of two people who had both lost something to the cold. When morning came, the week was nearly over. I packed my few things. The cabin felt different, warmer but also heavier. I should go, I said. He looked up from the fire. If I asked you to stay? My heart stumbled. Why? He stood slowly. Because this cabin feels less like a place and more like home with you in it. Because your voice makes the air breathe again. Because I don't want to be alone anymore. I turned away, blinking back tears. But it started as a lie. Some lies, he said softly, are just truths waiting to be spoken out loud. He stepped closer, hesitated, then reached for my hand. His fingers were rough, warm, alive. I felt the world narrow to that single touch. If you'll let me, he said, I'd like to make it real. Tomorrow morning before the sun climbs, I want to marry you, truly. Not for the town. For peace. For you. I could barely breathe. Won't you regret it? He smiled. Only men who live without love have time for regret. The next morning the sky was clear for the first time in weeks. The snow glittered like glass and the air smelled of pine. We stood beneath two tall aspens, alone except for a pair of birds perched above us. He took my hands in his. "Your name," he said, "is written in my heart now, Zoltana." I closed my eyes as his voice trembled through me, the sound of someone learning to live again. And I knew then that love can bloom even in frozen soil. The days that followed were quiet, full, alive. Hoda laughed more. I sang while cooking. We built a small fence for the horses. When rain came, we let it soak us, laughing like children. I no longer feared the gaze of others. My heart, once bruised by judgment, now beat in rhythm with his. One evening, as we watched the sunset burn across the plains, I said, "You know, that first night I was afraid of you." He chuckled. "And now?" "Now," I said softly, "I feel safe with you, like the world can't touch me." He squeezed my hand gently. "Safety," he whispered, "is love's quiet prayer." Later, as the wind rustled through the pines, I looked up at the stars, so clear, so near. I thanked the heavens for that cold night when a stranger opened his door and, without knowing, opened my heart too. We still live in that cabin. The winters come and the snow still falls, but it no longer frightens me. Because now, every flake that touches the earth reminds me of how two lonely souls once found warmth in each other. Sometimes Hoda still takes out that small wooden bird. He runs his thumb over its wings and smiles. "It reminds me," he says, "of the night a girl walked through the snow and changed my seasons." And I lean my head on his shoulder, whispering, "And you gave my heart a home." The snow still falls. But inside this cabin, it never feels cold again. Because love, once found, burns like a quiet fire, enough to warm two souls through every winter to come.